Alrighty, welcome to today's YouTube video, and this video is going to be an inside look at my powerlifting coaching service and what is essentially, this is the exact introductory block overview video that I sent to a client just last week. So I recently onboarded my client Brandon, and this is the raw uncut video that I sent to him. This is exactly what he received from me. This details communication expectations, just general expectations, that he can expect from me, what I should be expecting from him. We jump into programming, technique, everything. So this is the exact video he received, with just this intro put on top of it. I want to shout out Andy Pelletier of Triumph Strength and Performance, as he made this video first. This is his idea. He gave me permission to essentially, do a very similar video. So this is his idea. He put this together first. I think he's the only person I've ever seen put something together like this. So check him out. He's gonna be linked down below. I'll link to that video specifically. I also want to shout out Tyler Longrage of Prevail Performance, as he put together a very similar video. Both of these guys are powerlifting coaches, friends of mine, who I'm constantly kind of just networking with in some capacity. So they put together some great content. They're both fantastic coaches. So check both of them out. I'll link both those videos down below in the description. But yeah, uncut video. This is exactly what I sent to a new onboarding client last week. Just again to give people an idea of what comes with my powerlifting coaching service. So if you have any questions, let me know down below, and enjoy the video.
All right, this is gonna be your first intro block for intro block video. This is gonna be your block overview video for this first intro block. There we go. Reminder, you're going to get one of these for every single training block, so you can expect that, and it's going to come through same way it is here. YouTube link, I'll send that over through WhatsApp. You're also going to have your access to your YouTube playlist in here. Once I kind of get that created, I'll put that in the next few days. So you're going to get those. You're also going to get weekly check-ins. Again, those block overview videos aren't going to be this long. Those generally run like anywhere from like 5-ish, 8 minutes, 8 to 15 minutes. Just kind of depends on like how much we're changing, how much is really needed to go over. This one's going to be like probably north of 25 to 30 minutes. The other things, you're going to get the weekly check-in videos. Those run anywhere from about 3 to 8 minutes, just kind of depending on like what, and those are going to come through same way on YouTube, WhatsApp link. Those are going to be more so like a need by need basis of like how much is there to cover each week. Sometimes there's not going to be much to cover. It's going to be, hey, everything's kind of looking good over the past week. Here's what we're looking at for next week. Sometimes I'm going to be like breaking down a lot of technical stuff. So you also just get the occasional video throughout the week if needed from a feedback standpoint. If there's something technique wise I want to work on midweek to carry you like into it. It's like, just as an example, if there's like a session, let's say this Monday squat session like in a couple weeks where I'm like, I want to fix something for the Friday, you might get a video or something midweek as well. So just again trying to be as communicative and in-depth with the feedback as possible, so you can kind of expect that. In this video though, we're going to dive into just the sheet in general, how to read it, how to use it, where to fill things out, what I am looking for from you on your end. We'll dive into the feedback guide, and then we'll get into the more technical stuff. So we'll get into technique and programming. So starting off, this is the spreadsheet. Microcycles here. This is just fancy word for your weekly schedule. You might be familiar with the terms like primary, secondary, tertiary, but those are kind of labeled in here, and we'll kind of talk about that when we get into like the more technical programming stuff. I got training maxes up here. You can ignore that. That's for me, just for any percent-based work for the formulas to kind of populate in. It's based on this stuff, these numbers here. Block notes, generally going to be stuff I'm filling in occasionally. Most of the time though, the block notes itself is going to be this video. So occasionally I'll throw something in like, hey, don't exceed ranges, or hey, this session maybe is a little bit open-ended. But a lot of the notes for you on a session-to-session basis are going to be in the notes column on the sheet. Warm-ups, I don't have anything specific here, and I do want to have a conversation kind of before Monday sometime and dive into what your warm-ups were looking like prior to kind of starting together. Generally, I think most people are probably okay just 3 to 5 minutes on the bike, and then starting to kind of get under the bar and letting the bar actually be the warm-up. Maybe doing 1 to 3 sets with the barbell of 5 to 10 reps. Um, and then, doing 1 to 2 sets with like, a plate, or in this case, like a red, and then starting to load the bar up and hitting singles as you work up. But there are going to be cases where like we are going to want direct warm up exercises, whether it be from like a movement prep standpoint of like a technique. Let's say like, for deadlift, maybe we want to do some RDLs beforehand to kind of start priming that hinge, like some light dumbbell RDL or something. Or maybe we do some kind of a drill to start warming up like a movement pattern specifically, or maybe it's like a warm up designed to actually just get a certain part of your body like warmed up and like, I don't want to say loose, but like start kind of working through some of that stiffness. Something like that would be like some walking lunges or something like that. So this is something we can have a conversation about. As of right now, just start with this. And again, if you feel like you need more or you want to introduce something specifically, just, reach out, because, we can start to kind of plan that out. And again, there might be times where like, hey, I want to work on this from a technique standpoint. This is the drill we're going to do, is, from a warm up or something like that. In here, this will be your YouTube playlist. You'll be able to click on that. This is your feedback guide. You click on that, it's going to pull up the entire guide of like kind of what's expected and what is needed from a feedback standpoint, which we'll look at in a second. This just is the intensity key. So you're going to see some times in here where things are like blue font. You can ignore that. That just means it's an assigned load. This is literally just like notes in a sense for me, so I can quickly like look at it and know how I programmed it and like what the numbers mean in the formula. So black is going to be like RPE based stuff, things for you to actually be taking a look at. Now, again, you'll click on this. It'll pull up this document here. I need to share I have a folder for athletes with just some useful documents like my schedule, feedback, expectations is in there. I want to say I think those are the two that are in there. So I'll share that with you with my schedule, so you kind of know when I'm relatively available for communication and when things are going to end up, being responded to the next day type of deal, in terms of like when I go to sleep and when I'm working, things like that. Expectations in general are just be as communicative as possible. So each session, make sure you're filling your sheet out. So this is going to include your pre-workout surveys, outside variables, soreness, etc. We'll kind of cover that. Inserting weights when directed, rating your RPE, and leaving feedback in the feedback section or on WhatsApp. This is kind of something I used to always want it in the feedback section, but some people like to send it on WhatsApp. It makes no difference to me as long as I'm getting feedback. So some people will fill their sheet out. They'll type it in here. They'll say, oh, squat felt great. Today, I'm feeling fatigued here, whatever. They'll go through their feedback, and then they'll just send the videos on WhatsApp. Or you can send the videos on WhatsApp and send the feedback on WhatsApp as well. I always will be responding on WhatsApp, but the reason I leave it open-ended for both is I'm going to pull up both things. I'm going to pull up WhatsApp to send you feedback and watch your videos, obviously, but I'm also going to pull up the sheet whether you send me feedback on WhatsApp or not. I always look at both, so I can just kind of fully be aware of what's going on. 2 to 3 videos from each lifter recorded each day from varying angles. I cannot stress this enough. I'm actually going to try to highlight this here. This is an issue with some people. They'll send the same angle. They'll send 3 videos all from the same angle, and they'll send that same angle every single session. Okay? Try to mix these angles up. If you think about it, if I was in person coaching you, because like that's kind of not what we're trying to create, but we're trying to mimic that as much as we kind of can. If I was in person, like personal training, I'd be able to walk around you as you're doing a set and kind of look at everything from different angles to see what I want to see. Try to mix these angles up, front angle, side angle, whatever the case is. Move the camera around throughout the workout if you can. There's going to be times where I'm going to ask for a specific angle. Like I might be like, hey, next squat session, send me some side angles. I want to look at this from the side. Or hey, next squat session, send a front angle. I want to look at, this or that or whatever. Otherwise, unless I'm asking for specific stuff, just mix it up, kind of try. I like straight on angles, okay? And I like straight side angles if you're going to send side angles, or really front angles as well. The lower the camera, the better. Not like on the floor, but like the camera being like 2 feet off the floor, or like at like, mid-thigh height is a really good height for something like a squat. For a bench press, the camera just being like the height of the bench is really good. And then for deadlift, kind of same height as a squat. So I think sometimes those higher angles, as you move, especially with like a squat, for example, like as you move, things get blocked. The camera gets blocked by plates or whatever the case may be. That's also that lower camera height is going to be like the height of like where your knee and hip are going to be in the bottom. So like for a squat, for example, I can actually see depth and see what's going on. So In general, from a communication expectation standpoint, like try to complete your entire workout first, then send videos after you've filled your sheet out, done the whole workout or done most of the workout. Like if you want to send videos while you're doing accessories and feedback while you're doing accessories, that's fine. Try to avoid doing a set and then sending a video, and then doing a set and then sending a video. The reason being is one, if you're having a session that's going, let's just say, poorly, you're more likely to be emotional and have just kind of high emotions, high frustration during that, which is not going to lead to like useful feedback for me, because it's not going to be very objective. The other thing is people generally just don't leave feedback when they do that. So like they'll send a set and they'll say, "This set felt good," and then they'll send another set and say, "This set felt good," like, or "This set didn't feel good. I'm gonna try to do this next set." Like, but they're not describing how everything's feeling. They're not describing how their technique is really feeling on the day. They're not describing how the session went in general. When I can kind of have a whole step back and look at the whole session as one, and look at all the different sets you did and everything, kind of just see how the workout actually went in total, it's gonna be a lot better. It's just gonna be a lot better for me to kind of give you the best feedback possible. So try to send everything at once at the end, and that's where you're gonna be most objective. I'll show you some examples of that in a second. If you do need to skip or move a session, just let me know as soon as you can. That way we can kind of move things around. If we need to move a day up, move a day back, or skip stuff, we can have that conversation beforehand rather than you moving stuff without kind of letting me know. And then maybe things are, we're pushing sessions together too close that I'd rather just skip or something like that. As for what we're looking for in the feedback, the four big like questions are going to be, or topics are: how did the bar feel, which aka like, did you feel strong? How did you perform? Is the bar heavy on your back, light in your hands? How'd your technique feel? The other thing would be like, do you feel like you have pop, or are you performing well? How'd your technique feel? So is there any technical stuff we're working on currently that like you're focused on specifically, that, is that feeling good or bad? What's kind of going on with that? Did you feel like your technique felt streamlined on the day, or did things kind of feel awkward, a little off, or and just detrained in a sense? Did you feel fresh and well recovered, or did you feel fatigued, sore, and beat up? So where do you feel on the recovery spectrum of things? And then are there any outside variables affecting performance? So how's sleep, nutrition, life stress, hydration? With the life stress thing, just share what you're comfortable with. You don't necessarily need to, let's say you're having some, job stress or relationship stress. You don't have to go into detail. You can if you want, but you could just simply say, "Hey, I have some outside stress going on that's affecting my training," or "I have some outside stress related to my job that's affecting my training," or whatever you want to share. Share what you're comfortable with. I don't want you to feel like you need to dive into like personal stuff with me, unless like that's something you want to do. Just to kind of give me more background. That's totally up to you. I always want to stress, share what you're comfortable with. All right. So what feedback looks like is, I'm going to use Genesis as an example. He's very detailed in his feedback. So you'll send everything over on WhatsApp with videos. Let me get this. Let me fix this quick. There. I had the sun. The sun's coming up. It's straight in my eyes. So you'll send everything over on WhatsApp, and then he sends his feedback on WhatsApp as well. Again, sheet is fine, WhatsApp is fine. Doesn't matter. Videos just need to come through on the WhatsApp, and that's where we'll communicate. But you'll see he dives into, okay, starting off with the bench, very good. Top set, single of 215 for the three count pause was good. He feels like it was a little bit sloppy, kind of on the ascent specifically. He feels like the RPE was kind of where it needed to be. And then he's just saying, hey, weights felt good. I felt, strong. He's saying he's performed well. He feels like he had a good day. Then he said deadlift was easy. Everything feels smooth. Everything feels amazing. He feels well recovered. And then he's kind of just covering in some accessory stuff as well. Then I come back with feedback. Typically, I like to send things over audio, so I like to just send a lot of audio and stuff. But again, you're going to get the videos, you're going to get the text, just whatever's kind of needed to kind of relay the information to you best you can. So that's kind of what that should look like. And again, use this as your guide. And if you're ever confused, just reach back out to me, and I can kind of cover everything. So that's what the feedback looks like. Now let's get into the programming and technique. All right, so I pulled these off your Instagram here just because you have the Instagram with like it's really set up like a training log, so it was easy to kind of go through and kind of pick and choose what I needed to look at. So with squat, like I'll just go lift by lift here, and then we'll kind of jump into the training. There's just to preface, there's not a ton we're gonna adjust. Your technique's like pretty solid. There's I think one thing with bench press I want to work on, and one thing with deadlift, and that's it. Squat I'm not even gonna mess with. Now, you are squatting high bar. You said you've always squatted high bar. We're gonna stay high bar for now. We might try to move to low bar at some point. I think generally people have a lot of success with low bar. Like just people are generally stronger on low bar. There's a reason most powerlifters squat low bar. But I'm okay with not making that adjustment right now. I'd rather wait a couple months, kind of get into the flow of things with programming, kind of figure out your fatigue and performance and the trends within that we're gonna see before making a big change like this, because this would be a big adjustment. I'd rather just let's train, let's do what you're doing, let's try to get stronger, let's figure the programming side of things out, and then we can look to maybe make that change down the road if we feel like it's something we want to do. Otherwise, from a technique standpoint, I like everything here. I'm not going to adjust anything. I think you're managing your center of mass well. Not that I think bar path is something that's super important. I think a lot of people sometimes put too much stock into kind of, the bar path. But your bar path is very vertical, and anytime we are going to see that, it's probably going to be a good thing that this bar path is pretty much straight up and down. We're not seeing any crazy deviation, maybe a little bit kind of forward towards the center of mass. Otherwise, I'm not going to mess with anything. I think squat looks really, really good here. I think this is yeah. So we got one more squat video here. And again, I'm not going to mess with anything too much. I think I'm just going to leave everything be with kind of what it's looking like right now. This was your 185 kilo PR here. So yeah, you're maintaining position as things kind of get heavy as you grind. So we're not going to mess with anything with squat. With bench press, there's one change I want to make. I like everything here in terms of like your unrack. I really am a fan of unracking with the glutes up. That's generally how I have most people, that's generally how I like to teach the unrack. I think footing looks good. The one thing is I want you to really cue neck pressure off the unrack. So when you unrack, I want you to really be thinking neck pressure, neck pressure, neck pressure. Try to take your neck, take your shoulders, take your traps, and jam them into the bench. Flatten that neck into the bench. I have a post on this on Instagram relatively recently where I cover it, but we're trying to kind of establish your center of mass on the pad itself up by the neck, okay? And kind of as high up there as we can. This is going to also help to drive the rib cage up as much as we can, which we want to try to promote. A bigger arch. Not that everyone's going to have this big arch, but the more we can kind of promote that, the better. So the one thing I'm seeing is as you bench, we can see this neck kind of, we start seeing a little bit, I can't zoom in, but we start seeing a little bit of daylight under there, right? Really try to jam that neck in the bench. Otherwise, leg drive looks good. Like you're staying locked in. And again, if cueing neck pressure and really trying to jam that neck flat in the bench is still coming up some, that could just be like, hey, you're not going to be in a position with your leverages to be able to do that, and that's okay. It's just something I want to try to work on if we can. Otherwise, bench looks great. I have nothing else I want to adjust. I just want that to be a cue we start working with. With deadlift, we're going to not overhaul, but make a bit of a bigger adjustment. So as you're initially kind of setting up, you're going to start pretty far over the barbell and kind of in front of it, right? And I like to think of the shoulders as being like the point in which we're like kind of rotating around and working around when we're talking about like sumo deadlift in particular. So you're starting a little bit in front of the bar, meaning your shoulders are a little bit in front of the bar. And then as you wedge, we see them kind of rock back into place to create that wedge. So there's two different directions of movement. We're going to have the shoulders sliding back and the hips sliding forward. Now, I think your position here is fine, okay? I think your start position's fine. We're seeing a little bit of like low back rounding. But with your, like generally in sumo deadlift, conventional is different. We sometimes want to promote some rounding. With sumo deadlift, we generally want to be pretty neutral. But I think with your leverages, with like you just have a little bit of a longer torso, we're going to see that. And the one thing I'm watching is like that pelvis positioning, which to me looks good. And we're not seeing any sticking at lockout or anything like that. So I don't want to adjust like the necessary or the position at which you're breaking the bar off the floor. It's more so how you're getting there that I want to work on a little bit. And again, same deal here. You're starting over the barbell, over the barbell, over the barbell, and then your wedge is you kind of leaning back as the hips come in. Now, again, your start position here looks, well, it's hard to see what's going on here. It looks good, but I want to get you starting behind the barbell more. And again, like I said, your pelvis is in a good spot, but sometimes what we will see is that we will start to see some issues with people where they're more likely to roll underneath if they're not, if they're kind of starting over the bar more. So I'm going to show you what I mean. Okay, so what I was kind of explaining is you're starting over the barbell, and then your wedge is the shoulders kind of coming back and the hips kind of coming into place. It's just a lot of additional movement that I think we can trim out, as well as, like I said, and it's not an issue with you, but sometimes what we will see that we could end up running into problems with in the future is people are more likely to scoop under. I find when they're starting over the bar, then they tend to sometimes want to kind of scoop under and get a little too upright. So all I want you to do is I want you to think of the barbell as being like a wall, like a glass wall. There's a glass wall in front of you where that bar is. We want to try to stay behind it as best we can. Obviously, you're not going to be able to set up behind the barbell. That wouldn't make sense. But I think trying to cue that of staying behind the bar and letting everything, the setup, stay behind the barbell instead is going to promote like a little bit of promote a good hip hinge, but also just simplify that setup. So I want you to, as you're setting up, stay behind this bar, behind this bar, behind this bar, and then that wedge, everything's staying behind the barbell. The other thing this is going to do is it's going to establish your center of mass on your heels a little bit. Then the wedge itself can actually be the migration from the weight from your heels to your midfoot, okay? So instead of everything kind of staying balanced the whole time, we are starting on the heels more. You're staying behind this wall, You're staying over the barbell, or you're not in front of the barbell, but you're staying kind of over the bar more. And then that wedge itself is going to happen where we're not seeing this rocking back of the shoulders, but we're just seeing the hips kind of kick back a little. The center of mass is going to be, if you could see my feet right now, my center of mass, my weight would be on my heels. And then as everything swings forward, we're going to see that weight kind of shift towards the midfoot and wedge forward. So I just want you to basically, like, long story short, try to stay behind the bar a little bit more during this portion of your setup. So like as you're kind of setting up here, just staying behind the bar as best you can. So let me know if that makes sense. Now, diving into the programming to wrap things up, how the sheet works is here you're going to list your sleep, your nutrition, hydration, life stress, upper body and lower body fatigue. Again, I'm not going to be super picky if you don't fill this stuff in. As long as you're informing me about it in your feedback, it's not the end of the world if you don't fill this in. It can be some quick data for me to kind of just quickly look at, but I'm not as worried about that. Same thing down here. This is where you're going to kind of fill some quick performance stuff in. I'm not as worried if you don't fill this in, as long as your feedback is being is covering that stuff, right? Now, exercise is going to be on the left, sets, reps, intensity. Your weight is going to be in kilos. Accessories you can fill in pounds. It doesn't matter. Last set RPE, which is where you'll be rating your RPE. This will actually give you the weight in pounds, like 115 kilos is 254 pounds. It just will tell that to you. Notes here, and then volume. You can ignore volume. And then the feedback section here, again, you can type feedback in here, send on WhatsApp. The programming itself, another thing I should cover, you're going to have sessions where it's going to say insert load. That's where I need you to put weights in at. For accessories, I generally like when people track them, and I encourage it. It's not something I'm going to get on you if you don't, but I do encourage it. I personally would recommend just throwing them in the notes section. So for hack squat, you could write, 3 plates for 8 or whatever. That way when you have multiple sets, you can kind of just throw a comma and do the next set or whatever. So I personally like to do that. It leaves a little more room to leave notes. Or I recommend athletes to do that, as it leaves a little more room to leave some notes. Looking at the programming itself, we're going to squat on Monday and Friday. Friday being your primary squat. Anytime you're going to see primary, that's generally going to mean the session. Well, it's always going to mean the session that we're trying to have be the strongest week in and week out. We want to promote the training or set the training up in a way to make the primary session strongest every single week. We got tertiary, secondary, quaternary, primary bench press, so 4 days a week bench. and then your deadlift here. The reason I kind of landed on this split in particular is I want you squatting later in the week if possible, because I think with your leverages, you're well leveraged for squat, and I think this stimulus on this session here is going to drive that performance. So when we get to the end of the block, we want as many squat exposures under our belt as possible, as well as we want like that heaviest secondary session to be driving the heaviest primary session. I think we're gonna learn real quick, but I think we are going to see you're someone who's going to probably lean towards the idea of needing to be primed rather than recovered going into your sessions. We're looking for high performance. With bench press, I've got your tertiary on Monday. Wednesday is the secondary. I have a quaternary, like quick primer 3x1 session on Friday into the primary on Saturday. I really want to get that primary on Saturday to line up with the meet. So that's kind of why that's there, or line up with future meets. Now, if we feel like we're running into issues with just like the primary's not going well on no recovery and no rest, that's something we can adjust. But this session's really easy, and it's going to just act as just a technique primer to kind of get things feeling good. It's 3 singles, so should be pretty easy there. With deadlift, I've got your primary session on Wednesday, your Saturday session as your secondary day. I wanted to kind of stagger and not give you like a bunch of SBD days. Like one thing we could have done is like I could have put like a deadlift like on Friday or something, but then this would also had to be a deadlift. So I wanted to spread it out a little bit. If you were training like 5 days a week, I probably would have stacked a squat and deadlift together, but I want to spread it out as best we can because I don't want to give you 2 SBD days across the week. I think from a session quality standpoint, we're going to start to see some negative outcomes, like negative performance on that by the time we get to deadlift, just because by the time you get to deadlift after an SBD day, like that deadlift is probably, the focus probably isn't going to be there as much. And doing that twice a week, we're just probably going to have a hard time having quality deadlifts. So you're also very well leveraged for squat. I don't think we're going to run into issues of like, your posterior chain being beat up and then leading into deadlift. Now, that's just something we'll have to kind of see, and if we do need to make adjustments, we can. I wanted the deadlift on Wednesday in particular, though, so it's kind of alone in the week. You're coming off the secondary day. You have a full day rest. You should be well recovered from squat going into the session. And in this session, you might feel fatigued, but that's okay. If we're going to have a session across the week that's feeling beat, the secondary deadlift is the one I want that on. I think deadlift is an example of something that can this is going to be for all the lifts, but I think deadlift in particular, we can really make some progress with being under fatigue, and like we can still have some quality training, as well as the squat workload is going to kind of drive some of the deadlift progress as well. So I don't necessarily need this session to be like super well recovered, high performing. I really want both of the squats to be high performing if possible, and we're going to probably try to be chasing that, I think, if need be. So getting into everything, I'll go lift by lift, so I'll cover squat, then bench, then deadlift. Secondary squat, top set of 5, 3x7. With you, I think we're going to see like we just need some of that volume. With your leverages, with your weight class, your demographic, we're really going to want to be stimulating and driving adaptation via volume. I don't think we're going to need to touch like the top end a whole lot. We're going to find out, but I don't think we're going to necessarily need like a primer set here, or like a double or a single or something to kind of get that primary feeling good. If we do, we will throw that in. But you're going to see like the rep work for you on the squat in particular is going to just generally shade to like moderate to higher reps. So you're going to see this secondary session be a top set of 5 and then a 3x7. After that, we've got hack squat, top set of 8 to 10, and then just one more set, AMRAP to RP8, so repeat load there. The primary session's a top triple. You'll put your weight in, so let's say you do 152.5 into 135 for 5. And then the back downs are going to be pre-prescribed loads. So like you could do 1,000 kilos here. It's not going to change the back down sets. I want those progressing at a even rate across the block, versus this back down can actually be pushed a little bit as the top set progresses. Again, you're going to see a lot of the rep work and the volume back down work is going to be that moderate to high rep range. So you're going to see 5s, you're going to see 7s for a lot of your workload here. You're a very well leveraged squatter. So we're going to be able to kind of really let squat like be an actual driver of like hypertrophy and stimulus of the quads. We're not going to need to reach towards a bunch of leg extensions. That's why you're going to only see like 2 sets of hack squat, 2 sets of Bulgarians. The reason I gave you the Bulgarians is it is going to bias, so your squat is probably going to just be very quad heavy, like in terms of the stimulus. We're probably not going to see a ton of adductor and glute fatigue from the squat just because of how upright you are. I'm putting this in here as like a bit of additional volume towards those areas and almost as a preparation or exercise that's going to start preparing you for those positions if we make the switch to low bar in the future. So that's kind of why those are in there, as well as I just like single leg work for people. The hack squat, I've selected this exercise in particular because it looks like your squat. Like if we watch your squat kind of looks like a hack squat. It's just very upright. It's very squatty. It's very knees forward. Like this is like, if you were in a hack squat, this is what your body's going to be organized in a hack squat. So it's going to be very similar to kind of what we want, as well as the hack squat's just great for just, there's a lot of external stability, and it's just going to be very, very good at pushing and stimulating those quads very, very hard. In terms of ranges, I've got some ranges laid out across the block, but they're loose. So I will like solidify these ranges as we go, but I'm looking to kind of end squat around 170 kilos for the triple, end the secondary day at 157 kilos for the set of 5. And you're going to see like a lot of 7 kilo jumps. I think for you, that's kind of where we're going to start. We'll kind of start to figure out where we want to pace things as we get through this block and going into next block and future blocks. With bench press, 4 days a week, this tertiary session is just a top set of 6 2x6. Easy volume. It's going to be load capped. Again, I'll solidify these caps as we go. But easy rep work. Nothing crazy here. Just getting a little bit of workload on this day. And the intensity is not going to get high. We're going to only touch about a 6 to 7 RPE here. I don't think we need to push it super hard. I've got you doing triceps after that, and then biceps and lateral raises. The biceps and curls and lateral raises, you can superset. That's why it says AB. So you can do a set of biceps, a set of lateral raises, and you can superset them. Do the triceps on their own just so that those can be kind of focused on and intent put into those on their own since they're a little bit more specific. But it's just top set 8 to 10, set 12 to 15, and then an AMRAP with the same weight. But yeah, that's the tertiary bench day. Wednesday is the secondary bench day. So we have a top triple into back down set of 4, and then a 3x5. I want to see how structuring the secondary day like this goes. This may be too, I don't want to say too much volume. It's 5 sets. It is a lot of sets. But you had said before in your intake form that you do a lot of your sessions previously were 4 to 6 sets of a specific lift. For bench would be 5 to 6 sets specifically. So I think 5 sets should be manageable. What I'm referring to mostly though is the structuring of this. Sometimes I like to do like 2 top sets where the second one kind of calculates the rest of the back down work. If we're running into issues like this workload's just getting too heavy, the average intensity is just too much, I'll switch this to like an RPE based set, give you like a load cap, and then we'll run from there, kind of how your primary is structured here. After that, dumbbell press, top set of 6 to 8, and then one set of 12 to 15. And again, I've got bench ranged out across the block. We're going to finish this like 8 to 9 RPE. These back downs here are this set's going to be plus 2.5 from the previous week. This set is going to match the previous week, just so that we don't get too out of hand with the progression of the back downs on that last week. So we can just stay kind of recovered and push the top set and overreach that and just kind of repeat back downs from week 3. This session's a 3x1 tempo. I want you to focus on the neck pressure on this day and really focus on that control. 4-second descent. So anytime you see like 4-1-0, 3-1-0, 3-2-0, 0-2-0, that's going to refer to the cadence or the tempo. So the first number is going to be the descent. The second number is going to be the pause, and then the third number is going to be the ascent or the concentric. So I need to get weights in there. Let me fix that. All right. 3x1, ignore the percentage. Those aren't even quite correct because I'm backing off an additional couple percent points because of the fact that it's tempo. But 3x1 here, I want you focusing on that neck pressure. This is just the technique primer to get you ready for Saturday. So Saturday's going to be your primary day. We're going to do a top single, into a top set of 5, into a 3x5. I'm eyeing finishing you like 127, which is your PR. So that's kind of the number we're looking to at least match or get close to. I'd be very happy with that, but we'll just have to see how things go. The top set of 5 is going to be load capped. And again, I'll solidify those ranges as we go. After that, weighted dips, top set of 6 to 8, instead of 10, 12. I went with the weighted dips because you get a good amount of shoulder flexion. I want to kind of continue to train that positioning because I think it is going to be specific. Then I've got you finishing with 2 sets of machine chest press. So I don't know if I covered flat neutral dumbbell bench up here, tricep extensions. But then machine chest press here. So you're going to have quite a bit of chest workload on this day. If this is too much, we might dial back some of the machine chest press work or the weighted dips, and I need to go through and put these across as well. But that's bench. Deadlift, primary session, top double. Again, going to be ranged out across the block. Another thing I forgot to mention with the ranges, don't exceed ranges. These ranges are hard capped, and I'll even put this up here as well. So I don't want you going over ranges. I want these ranges to be treated as like a cap at the high end and then like just as a suggested load kind of towards the middle and low end of that. But top double, similar setup to the way squat is. Top double, the set of 4 is percent base, so you'll have to put your weight in or percent drop. So that can actually progress as the top set progresses and we can be aggressive with. The 2x5 is going to be set in stone loading across the block. It is going to just be controlled progression of that. No accessories on this day. The secondary session, we're going to run ascending 5s, just 2 ascending 5s into a back down set of 6. You're going to do 3 sets and then into 45-degree hypers. Plan for about 7.5 to 10 kilo jumps. Otherwise, everything's going to be load capped, and I'll adjust those as we go, but we're going to keep the jump size a little bit smaller on this session. With this first week, I don't want you to necessarily chase the top end of the ranges or the caps unless it's going to be by abided by the RPE. Like, so if to hit an RPE 5 to 6 you need to hit 92, then obviously work up towards it. But I want you to be a little conservative on this week 1 so that we can really see how is everything moving, and then next week we can really start to establish these ranges as being a lot more accurate. I'm pretty confident with where these ranges are because you have a lot of training data we can pull from, but I want to still be a little conservative week 1. Again, if you're strong enough to hit the cap at RPE, do it. I want you to work towards those caps, and I like to encourage that when obviously it's going to abide by RPE. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind for this week 1. The other thing is if we are kind of progressing things and we're not catching your top end and things are going really well, we can add weeks to the block. So like if we finish week 4 and it's like, man, you got another 7 kilos on your deadlift here, and we've got another 5 kilos on your bench press or whatever, like we can add a week to the block. So I've got you planned for a 4-week block, just so that's generally where I find within my system most people are going to be. But I'm completely open to adding a 5th week or 6th week or whatever we need to do as we kind of figure things out. So this first block, again, we're really just identifying performance, fatigue and performance trends, and kind of just getting an idea of where we need to be. So hopefully we kind of can nail it block 1, but if we need to make adjustments as we go as well, we will. So let me know if there's any questions, comments, concerns over anything. I know this was a long video. There's a lot to go over, but you should be ready to go for Monday to start up.